ever faced a storm and felt oddly calm? That's not weakness. That's not denial. That's the miraculous presence of peace. Peace that doesn't make sense to the mind, but makes perfect sense to the soul. When everything around you is shaking and you're standing strong, that's your sign you're not alone. Something greater is holding you. That's when you smile, not because the storm is over, but because you know who's in the boat with you. It's a peace that silences fear. It quiets the noise in your mind and makes space for clarity, even in confusion. While others panic, you breathe. While others break, you bend but do not fall. That kind of peace isn't ordinary. It's not something you can create or fake. It's a gift that shows up when a greater presence is near. Think about it. The bills are due. The doctor gave a bad report. Relationships are breaking. Your future seems uncertain. Yet there you are, standing, still breathing, still hoping, still believing. That's not just resilience. That's a sign. It's a miracle in motion. The human mind isn't wired to find calm in the middle of chaos. Everything in the natural wants to flee, fight, or freeze. But when you feel a stillness that doesn't match the situation, then divine, that's when you know there's something supernatural working within you. You're not responding with your flesh. You're responding with something higher. You've tapped into a peace that passes understanding. A peace that doesn't come from things going right, but from knowing things will turn out right. Peace in chaos is a quiet miracle. It doesn't shout. It doesn't show off, but it speaks volumes. It tells the world that you are being carried by something greater than yourself. You've learned to trust, not because everything is perfect, but because deep down you know are protected. You may not have all the answers, but you feel a calm assurance that everything has already been answered on your behalf. That kind of peace changes how you walk, how you talk, how you sleep at night. You don't rush decisions. You don't react to everything. You begin to respond with wisdom, with grace, with inner strength. That's not natural. That's miraculous. People may look at you and not understand how you're keeping it together. They might assume you're numb or in denial. But you know the truth. You're fully aware of the storm, but you're also aware of the shelter. You're not running around trying to fix everything. You're staying still, knowing that some battles are not yours to fight. There's something powerful about learning to rest in the middle of a mess. It's not laziness. It's faith. It's not giving up. It's giving it over. That moment when you stop striving and start trusting is the moment when peace steps in and takes control. It's a shift from chaos to calm, not because the storm ends, but because you've learned who commands the storm. The most amazing thing is that this peace is not limited to a few people. It's available to anyone who chooses to tune in, to surrender, to believe. The world may never offer this kind of peace. Circumstances will always shift. People will fail. Plans will fall apart. But this peace remains. It's strong. And when it shows up, you'll know, because suddenly the things that used to rattle you no longer have the same power. You walk into rooms that used to intimidate you with confidence. You face news that used to crush you with courage. You hold your head high, not because of pride, because you found your anchor. This peace isn't loud, but it's powerful. It may not change your surroundings immediately, but it changes your response to them. And that changes everything, because when you change how you see, you change how you live. When you change what you believe, you change what you attract. So the next time you feel that unexplainable calm rise up in you, don't ignore it. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's a miracle. That's a sign. That's the evidence that something greater is walking with you, speaking through you, and standing in front of you. And where that presence is, peace always follows. You tried everything. You knocked. You waited. You cried. And every time you got close, the door slammed shut. You wondered if you were doing something wrong, if maybe you weren't good enough or ready enough. You watched others move forward while you felt stuck in the same place, circling the same walls, praying for a breakthrough. You reached a point where you almost stopped trying. But then, when you least expected it, something shifted. The same door that refused to open before, the one that felt impossible, suddenly swung wide open without effort. That moment wasn't just progress, it was a miracle. It was the evidence of divine nearness. Because when something greater is involved, doors don't open by force, they open by favor. There's a difference between pushing your way through and being invited in. One requires your strength. The other responds to your presence. When divine alignment shows up, things that once resisted you begin to make room for you. The places that told you no start asking for your yes. The opportunities you chased begin to find their way to your feet. And you know it's not because you became more qualified overnight. It's because something beyond you made a way where there was no way. Doors that were sealed shut begin to unlock not because of your key, but because of timing. Divine timing always overrides delay. What was once a wall becomes a gateway. What once held you back now pushes you forward. These are not ordinary openings. They are signs. You walk into rooms you didn't lobby for. You get calls you didn't expect. People begin to recommend you, bless you, open platforms for you without any agenda. That's what happens when the divine draws near. Access is granted. It's not based on connections. It's not based on status. It's based on purpose. When a higher presence moves, it shifts the atmosphere. It speaks to people on your behalf. It creates bridges where there were once gaps. And when you walk through those doors, you know deep down, this wasn't me. This was something greater working for me. You realize that all the delays had purpose. All the closed doors weren't rejection. They were protection. You weren't being denied. You were being aligned. You had to grow. You had to learn. You had to get stronger, not just to walk through the door, but to stay there when it opened. Because when divine doors open, they come with responsibility. They come with territory. They come with impact. You don't just walk through for your own gain. You walk through to be a light, a solution, a testimony. You become the proof that miracles still happen. And that's why every locked door, every disappointment, every season of silence wasn't wasted. It was shaping you. It was preparing you. It was building a deeper trust, a greater awareness. So when the door did open, you would know not to take credit. You would walk through with humility, with boldness, and with purpose. You would use the access to lift others, to inspire, to build what you were born to build. Because when divine access comes, it's never just about you. It's about the people you're called to reach. There is something powerful about knowing that you don't have to force your way forward. You don't have to manipulate your way into rooms or compete for attention. You just stay faithful. You stay ready. And when the right moment comes, nothing can stop the door from opening. Not opinions, not systems, not past mistakes, not even your own doubts. Because what has been divinely assigned to you cannot be locked away forever. When the time is right, the door responds to your arrival. It opens because the one who holds the keys is on your side. So don't be discouraged by the waiting. Don't be bitter about the no's. Every time you felt stuck, every time you hit a wall, every time you heard silence, it was leading you to something better, something you couldn't see at the time. But now, looking back, you realize that every delay was divine. And the open door was never really about the door. It was about your readiness to walk through it. That's what happens when the miraculous gets involved. Walls turn into doors. Closed becomes open. and once seemed impossible becomes your new reality. There's a fire in your chest when others see only ashes. You rise after being knocked down, again and again, not because you're superhuman, but because you're connected to a higher source of strength. That kind of strength isn't earned. It's given. It doesn't come from what's around you, but from what's within you. It's not dependent on conditions being perfect or people being supportive. It flows from a deeper place, a place where purpose speaks louder than pain. When everything says you should quit, when logic says give up, when emotions scream that you've had enough, there is still something in you that says, keep going. That's not ordinary strength. That's miraculous. You look back on seasons where you should have broken, and yet you didn't. You bled, you cried, you questioned, but you kept showing up. You kept putting one foot in front of the other, even when your knees were trembling. That strength didn't come from motivational quotes or temporary hype. It came from a presence that wouldn't let you collapse. It came from knowing deep down that you were being carried, even when you couldn't carry yourself. That strength is evidence. It's a sign, not that you are powerful, but that you are being empowered. There is a difference between pushing through and being pulled forward. When that higher strength is in you, you begin to feel the difference. Other people may notice your resilience and think you've got some secret strategy. They don't realize that what's keeping you together isn't visible. It's spiritual. It's not about willpower. It's about divine power. The more pressure that comes against you, the stronger you become. Not because of who you are, but because of who's with you. You don't just survive, you grow. You don't just endure, you evolve. Every battle refines you. Any trial strengthens your core. Every disappointment becomes a building block. You stop fearing challenges because you realize that challenges are the training ground for the next level of your life. And when others see you rise, they might think you're fearless. They don't see the nights you cried, the doubts you battled, the fears you silenced. What they don't understand is that strength doesn't mean you feel no fear. It means you move forward in spite of it. That's what makes it miraculous. It's not just about being tough, it's about being transformed. You become someone new in the process. You become more grounded, more anchored, more unshakable. And it's not because of anything you did on your own. It's because a greater force kept filling you every time you felt empty. You start to understand that you don't need to feel strong to be strong. Sometimes strength looks like tears. Sometimes it looks like resting instead of quitting. Sometimes it looks like standing still when everything around you is spinning. Real strength is quiet. It doesn't always show up in loud declarations or visible wins. Sometimes it's found in the decision to keep going, to keep believing, to keep trusting. And when you feel like you've got nothing left, somehow you do. Somehow you wake up and find just enough courage for one more step. That's how you know you're not doing it alone. This strength also shows up in your words. You begin to speak life when others speak doubt. You encourage others even when your own heart feels heavy. You lift people while carrying your own unseen burdens. That's not fake. That's not performance. That's power. A power that enables you to serve, to love, to lead even when you're under pressure. And the more you lean into it, the more it grows. You begin to rely less on your own effort and more on divine support. Something divine, you realize that your limitations are not liabilities. They're opportunities for something greater to take over. Divine, and what's beautiful is that this strength doesn't just carry you. It inspires others. Your ability to keep going becomes someone else's reason not to give up. Your endurance becomes a blueprint for others facing their own battles. And suddenly your pain has purpose. Your story has power. Your journey has impact. That's the miracle of strength beyond your natural ability. It transforms you from the inside out. It takes broken pieces and builds something unshakable. It turns ordinary people into living proof that when a greater presence is near, weakness doesn't win. Strength does. Every time. Ever noticed how everything starts to fall into place at just the right moment? It's like puzzle pieces that didn't fit suddenly locked together perfectly. That's not coincidence. That's divine alignment. You didn't make it happen. You couldn't have orchestrated the timing. But somehow, everything you once thought was random or delayed turns out to be part of a perfectly timed plan. It's the kind of timing that makes you pause and say, this couldn't have happened any other way. You start to see how the setbacks were really setups. The closed doors were just redirections, and the long seasons of waiting were never wasted. They were necessary. You may not have understood it while you were in it. The silence felt like rejection. The waiting felt like punishment. But now, you see it differently. Now you see how if that opportunity had come too soon, you wouldn't have been ready. If that relationship had stayed, it would have held you back. If you had rushed the process, you would have missed the lessons. That's the beauty of perfect timing. It doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it always makes sense in hindsight. You realize that you weren't being ignored. You were being positioned. Every delay was protection. Every detour was direction. And every not yet was a silent, I'm preparing something better. When the divine is near, alignment begins to show up in every area of your life. The people who come into your world are the right ones. The opportunities that show up are tailor-made. The timing is so precise that it leaves no room for doubt. You find yourself in the right place, with the right people doing the right thing, and you didn't have to force any of it. That's how you know you're walking in alignment. Things begin to flow, not without effort, but without resistance. You're not chasing anymore. You're being led. You're not striving to make things happen. You're stepping into what's already been prepared for you. It's not just about timing, it's about trust. Because while you're waiting, while you're not seeing results, you have to trust that something greater is working behind the scenes. You have to believe that what's meant for you won't pass you by. And that belief becomes your anchor. It keeps you steady in seasons of silence. It gives you peace when things don't make sense. You stop measuring success by how fast things happen and start measuring it by how aligned they are. You stop comparing your timeline to others because you realize your journey is uniquely designed. And when it's time, nothing and no one can stop what's meant for you. That's what makes divine alignment so powerful. It doesn't need your control. It needs your cooperation. It requires patience, yes, but it also requires faith. Faith that even when you don't see it, it's working. Faith that the right moment will come, and when it does, it will be undeniable. The conversation you weren't expecting opens a door. The email you almost didn't check contains the opportunity. The person you happen to meet becomes the connection. And you know it's not random. It's purpose. Everything connects. Everything aligns. And suddenly, you see the handprints of the miraculous all over your timeline. And the best part, divine timing doesn't just bring what you asked for. It brings what you needed. Sometimes you didn't even know what to pray for. You didn't have the words. You just had the hope. And somehow the outcome exceeded your expectation. It brought more peace, more joy, more growth than you imagined. Because what's aligned for you is never average. It's not halfway. It's complete. It's fulfilling. It doesn't just meet the need, it multiplies the impact. You walk away not just blessed, but transformed. Not just satisfied, but elevated. So don't be discouraged by the wait. Don't give up because things don't look like they're happening. Sometimes the deepest miracles take time to surface. Sometimes alignment is happening in silence. But when it finally shows up, you'll know. The timing will be perfect. The fit will be seamless. And your spirit will confirm what your eyes can't denying. This is it. This is what the waiting was for. This is what the journey prepared you for. And it will have been worth every second.